All right, guys, I just want to welcome back to Everything Coast World podcast. Today, me and Nick are going to be looking at the Alamo Bowl to Thursday, December 28th, 2023, 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time. ESPN, Arizona 3-point favorites live from the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas. Looking at these offenses, Nick, coming into the year, I felt Arizona would have a pretty stout ball movement side for them, led by, plenty of veterans, talented receivers, an improved offensive line and whatnot. But this year, the way they got it done was completely different. I mean, their offensive line obviously progressed. They're going to be out without their tackle, Jordan Morgan. But Noah Fafita, this guy took over for Jaden DeLora, got hurt early on in the season. He didn't look back. 74% completion rating, 2,500 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 5 picks. Pac-12 Freshman of the Year. First career start came against Washington. The next week against USC. 8 total touchdowns, only 2 picks against those two teams. And it was like that the rest of the season. Highly efficient football player. Obviously was a very, very productive player as well. Looks like he should have, a full complement of weapons here in this one. Tatora McMillan, 1,242 yards and 10 touchdowns. Jacob Cowing, 696 and 11 scores. They haven't really uncorked his speed much this year. He's been more of a possession pass catcher. And then, Tanner McClatchy at tight end has 500 yards and 4 scores. What do you make of this passing attack, Nick? Again, we expected to be good, but we didn't think a true freshman would be the one leading the helm.
Certainly an impressive numbers. When DeLora went down, I was concerned about, how this passing attack would look once they lost him. They haven't looked back. This quarterback that's taken over has been phenomenal. A great young man, 73% comp rate's a really impressive number, 2,500 yards passing, 23 scores and 5 interceptions. Good ratio there. This team, 34.3 points per game, 4.8 yards per attempt on the ground, and 6.82 yards per play. 6.82 yards per play, a very efficient offense. Really good numbers there. They're also really solid in the punt return game. They had a punt return touchdown, about 6 yards per return. So those are solid stats all over the board. 34 passing touchdowns and 10 interceptions. Great stats. Like you said, McMillan is a great number 1 wide receiver for this team. Nearly 1,250 yards plus the 15.5 yards per catch, 10 scores for him. Jacob Cowing was another great player. Not as efficient with the 8.4 yards per grab on 700 yards, but 11 touchdowns for him, a big red zone threat. Tanner McLean as well, 500 yards receiving, 4 scores. Michael Wiley, 306 and 5 scores. So they really do spread it out. They have nice volume and good depth at their wide receiving position. Jonah Coleman's a great back for them, also involved in the passing game. So this offense has a bunch of different weapons here, and look, they're all playing in this bowl game. It's a really great ad for this offense. I like what this team looks like here.
Last year, I talked about Arizona, and I was very happy with the amount of young freshmen they had. They would probably get on the field. Jonah Coleman this year was a true sophomore. He was one of those, 71 yards rushing per game on 10 attempts per contest, 851 and 5 scores, an efficient runner for them. DJ Williams, Michael Wiley, they were also pretty sound whenever they were on the field. This team does a great job of attacking space. It's really given to them. I mean, they just, against man coverage as well. I mean, they just get these guys the football, and they pick up big chunks of yardage. Of course, Morgan not playing is big at left tackle. Wendell Moe, that left guard, he's been having a great year. Jonas Savalinia, one of those true sophomores, he's been great at right tackle. And then Josh Baker really improved at center. So this is an offensive line I'm very happy with. Look at the Oklahoma offense. Even putting up 43.2 points per game. I know when you watch this team, it didn't really seem like it at times. But the back half of the season, they were able to pick up a lot of points. I mean, put 59 on West Virginia, 69 on TCU. I mean, numbers like that are certainly going to help you uplift that number. They also kind of beat up on teams like Tulsa for 66, 73 on Arkansas State. So I think it's a bit of a wash, Nick. That number isn't exactly accurate. But they're still putting up, almost 500 yards per play, or per game, that is, in conference play. So this offense is still a very good unit, 39 points per contest in the Big 12, so some more realistic numbers there. Dillon Gabriel, of course, had a big year. He's transferring to Oregon. They're happy with Jackson Arnold, though, a young 5-star recruit. They're happy to give the keys to the offense to, 18 of 24, 2 scores on the year. Has sparingly played, but this is a guy they're very excited for. He's also going to have a bit of weapons here to work with. Drake Stoops, there's no way he was going to miss this game. 880 and 10 touchdowns, 78 grabs his final game as a Sooner. Nick Anderson, 725 and 9 touchdowns. Over 23 yards per reception for him. Julio Farouk, plenty of speed there, 637. Jaden Gibson, I think that might be a portal candidate for them. Andrew Anthony, of course, they've certainly missed him, who had a big start to the season. But that's the leading trio there, Nick, that I just rattled off. They all have 600-plus yards. And that's going to be making things a little bit easier for the young Jackson Arnold in this game.
Obviously, the numbers, when you first glance, right, 43.2 points per game is a gaudy number, but like you said, when you really break down into it, some of those wins are a little lopsided against bad teams, but they still perform well against the better teams. 34 points against Texas, 31 against UCF, who had a good year defensively. 50 against a really solid defense in Iowa State. So this team does score a lot of points. They're very efficient on the ground. 4.45 yards per attempt on the ground, 6.74 yards per play. So solid numbers across the board there. Like you said, they're handing the keys to Arnold. I think he's a perfectly capable quarterback to take over for Dylan Gabriel. And he was kind of, ready for this position. They recruited him out of high school with the plan to start him after Gabriel's tenure, and now Gabriel moves on to greener pastures up there in Eugene. I think this works out fine for all parties involved. Drake Stoops, obviously the son of legendary head coach Bob Stoops for Oklahoma. He's just Oklahoma through and through. That kid loves the school, and he's going to play his absolute heart out in his last game as a Sooner. He had a fantastic season, 880, 11.3, and 10 scores for him. Nick Anderson, 23.4 yards per grab. Great efficiency there, 9 touchdowns, 725 for him. Jaleel Faluke, who I thought was the best wide receiver of the bunch there, had a bit of a disappointing season with the 637, 15.5, and 2 scores, but overall a solid player. If they're losing Jaden Gibson, obviously it's a bit of a loss. He had 5 touchdowns on the season. They have some decent running back room as well, a nice running room by committee over there. This Oklahoma offense should be fine even without Gabriel. I think they're in a great spot with the lack of opt-outs and some talented wide receivers.
Yeah, I don't believe Gibson is in the portal now. I'm looking at it now. He's played, sparingly this year. 372 though for him, 28 yards per catch. So if he does see the field, certainly should see an uptick in production for him. This is a rushing attack that we critiqued at the beginning of the year, mainly for their inability that is to rip off big runs. Second half of the season, they were able to do a much better job in that department. So I don't think it's certainly as worrisome as it was earlier in the year, where they were, dead last in terms of 20-plus rushing yards. Plays, that is 6'10" for Gavin Sawchuk, 8 touchdowns. But it is certainly notable that his second, third, fourth leading runners are not going to be playing. Javante Barnes, he'll be next man up. It looks like didn't play that much this year himself. With Major, Walker, and Gabriel, they're not going to be available for this game. Nick Sawchuk, though a young freshman, really helped spur this running game into some better successes towards the back half of the season, especially in the month of November. 4 straight 100-yard rushing games. That's going to be big for them. So he certainly is going to be the bell cow back for them, meaning some of these opt-outs and transfers and whatnot probably aren't as big of a deal.
Sawchuk is going to carry the load, 6'10", 5.8, 8 scores for him. Obviously lose the 12 touchdowns on the ground with Gabriel, which is a big loss for this offense. But overall, I think they're still a great unit top to bottom with some talented wide receivers. And I think Sawchuk will be able to carry the load and hit that 4.45 yards per attempt mark. Yeah,
this offensive line, they certainly were pretty sound in pass protection. Not the greatest by any means, but Andrew Ram's a great at center. He should be playing in this game. And then, you look at guys like McCade Mator, Walter Rouse, they ended up staying healthy throughout the season. So offensive line, certainly 2 solid units there. Of course, Jeff Levy's not going to be calling plays for Oklahoma, so that's something you got to be noticeable for them. Looking at the defenses, Arizona, this side of the ball, I gave them an F grade coming into the year. Man, was I wrong. 20.8 points per game. Johnny Nansen really got these guys cooking. Jacob Manu ended up going from an awful player a season ago to a leader form this year. 108 in the tackle department, 9.5 TFL, 6.5 sacks. He was great. And up front, they just did such a good job of, defending against the run. Russell Davis was good. Taylor Upshaw, the Michigan transfer, 11.5 TFL from him. Of course, Davis still about 220 pounds, but he did a good job for them. Isaiah Ward, Bill Norton. They got a pretty nice rotational defensive line here. They certainly proved a lot of things I didn't think were going to be capable this year for them. 111 rushing yards per game allowed this season. Gave up 224 to Arizona State in a blowout victory. Other than that, though, they didn't allow over 150 even once. They only gave about 146 to SC, about 4.5 yards per attempt there. Oregon State was able to rip off 4.5 as well. But, for the most part, they held these really good rushing attacks in check now against Oklahoma. They want to move fast. And even without their, great play caller, I think the philosophy is still going to be the same. But I don't think Arizona's going to crack here, Nick. This defense was massively successful this year. I was wrong.
This defense was fantastic. They definitely blew a lot of people's expectations out of the water. They had some really solid pieces that came in and stepped up. A lot of transfers that were brought in. They bought into the head coach's system. He came over here, Jed Fish, and he brought in these guys, and they stepped up on the defensive line. I've been very impressed with this unit top to bottom. Jacob Manu at linebacker, 108 total tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks for him, plus a pick. Good numbers there. Justin Flo, another transfer. He was a highly sought-after name. He had a good season, 44 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a sack for him as well. Bill Norton, 30 total tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss. Taylor Upshaw, 30 total tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks. Isaiah Ward, 25 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. Tyler Manu, 25 total tackles plus a sack and a tackle for loss. And then Kamalu Kalahai, the true freshman, 14 total tackles. He's a young guy to watch out for in the future. So this is a front seven that's stacked. These guys are playing. They're excited for this bowl game, and they're a big, physical, hard-hitting group.
biggest thing of this defense is the secondary. I mean, some of the coverages they're playing against these better quarterbacks. I mean, they're dropping 6, 7 guys into coverage and had a lot of success in this conference. Absolutely made Cam Ward look awful. They beat them 44-6. Caleb Williams really struggled. Michael Penix and crew. I mean, they still got some yards, but they were unable to find the end zone through the air. And that was really the case the entire season. The secondary didn't really crack all that much. Great unit back here for them. You know, most people, including myself, already knew about Treylon Stooks, but Takario Davis, Gunnar Maldonado, those were pleasant surprises for them in the secondary. And the coverages Johnny Nansen have been playing, Nick, seems like it's really going to fool a young quarterback. And I think that, young Jackson Arnold might be, a culprit of that. They only have 6 interceptions this year, but, 59% completion rating, pushing almost 60. Number certainly was, really great against some of these better opponents. And now they're, again, facing a young quarterback. I think they're going to have, some struggles, I think, for Oklahoma through the air against these guys, considering what they did in conference play.
I totally agree with you. That's a fair assessment. Dalton Johnson, a good player, 73 total tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and a pick for him. Gunnar Maldonado, 72 total tackles and a pick for him. Treylon Stokes, 48 total tackles, 8 pass breaks from him, and a pick. Good numbers there. There's nice production on this team. Takario Davis, 15 pass breakups and 25 total tackles. So nice production on this defense. This is a unit, 20.8 points per game, like you said, 3.44 yards per attempt on the ground and 5.27 yards per play. This is a big physical, nice secondary and a good front seven here coming against this Oklahoma offense and a young quarterback. I like the matchup for them, certainly.
Hey, look at the Sooners defense. Venables was able to really get them in tune this year from 30 points per game down to 22.3. And you look at what they have accomplished this year against the run, 147 yards per contest, only 13 touchdowns. I mean, they're certainly better at times against the run. Second half of the year, though, I think as a unit, they just weren't really as good. They really started to fade a little bit, showcasing once again they really do need to upgrade personnel here. Texas, they gave up a lot of yards, but they made a lot of great big plays, and that won the win. UCF was able to spark plenty of big plays at home in Norman, I might add. At Kansas, I mean, the running game just torched them apart. The next week in Stillwater, passing attack throttled them. TCU was playing catch up for the most part of that game. They were giving up a lot of big plays. So this defense back half of the season only costed them 2 games on the year, but that costed them a playoff spot, Nick. And I certainly think it's this side's place to be blamed. Danny Stutzman, of course, a player that we talked about playing on the field for over 1,000 snaps in 2022, proved to be a warrior once again. 99 tackles, 16 TFL, and a pair of forced fumbles. But I certainly think of this defense, there's still going to be a lot of improvement in the future under Venables. The back half of the year, this is why they're not playing for a championship.
This defense certainly showed some weaknesses on the second half of the year. Like you said, 22.3 points per game for this team, 4.08 yards per attempt on the ground, 5.37 yards per play. Decent stats, but they did have some tough outings in the second half of the season. Like you said, they struggled against UCF, against Kansas, against Oklahoma State. Teams that really knocked this team out of playoff contention and their final season in the Big 12. They didn't even get to compete for a Big 12 title, which is disappointing. If you ask Sooners fans, they really thought they'd be at least in the conference title game. They didn't make that. Stutzman, though, a great leader for this team, 99 total tackles, 16 tackles for loss, 3 sacks for him, and a pick. A great player, a really nice physical junior, a good player for this team. Jaron Kanek as well as a solid player, 60 total tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 2 pass breakups. Ethan Downs, 28 total tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks for him. Isaiah Cole, 26 total tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and Rondo Borthright, 25 total tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss. Jacob Lacey, 16 total tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, and a sack for him. Decent production here. Stutzman, that good quarterback of the defense, he really leads the way for this team.
Yeah, some of those linebackers you ripped off. The defensive line, the production really isn't all that great. Ethan Downs, a good player. Rondo Bothroyd is terrific. Jordan Kelly's been good. Isaiah Coe, and of course Trace Ford came over. But the defensive line certainly left a lot on the field. I thought they could have been certainly better in that regard. Key Lawrence for the secondary is not going to be playing. A team that was able to snag 19 interceptions to 16 scores they allowed, 242 yards per contest. This is a unit that, for the most part, wasn't all that bad. Against Kansas, they were playing Jason Bean there, able to come up with 2 picks, held him to under 50%. Against West Virginia, they were pure money in the back end. 56% opponent completion rating. They certainly don't give up too many, opponent completions. And, Billy Bowman was great with 6 picks. Gentry Williams as well. Kendall Dolby. Some of these guys were able to really look good at playing football again. That's certainly, I think, some of this implementation of Brent Venables' scheme. So they're certainly a lot better here. Being Woody Washington as well. Certainly a lot of impressive improvements in the secondary this season for them. And I think tackling in space is going to be just as important as potentially come down with turnovers. Again, Arizona loves to attack that with their offense. I think this is going to be a fun little chess match here. This young quarterback and his receivers against a secondary that's only going to be without Lawrence.
Yeah, losing Lawrence is a big loss for this team. He's a big physical guy. There are some solid pieces, though. Billy Bowman, 6 picks, 61 total tackles, 4 pass breakups. Gentry Williams, 3 picks, a pass breakup, 29 total tackles. He was a little banged up. He's a solid player for this team, though. Kendall Doby as well, 43 total tackles, 2 interceptions, 3 pass breakups. Woody Washington, 41 total tackles, and 7 pass breakups. Peyton Bowen as well, solid player, 33 total tackles, 5 pass breakups. So nice production across the board here. This is a unit that is good, but they've looked weak at certain points in time. And this is a full firing Arizona offense here with all their weapons. This could be a nice matchup for them.
Now looking at the final thoughts and the prediction. For Arizona, continue to play that coverage that should puzzle a young quarterback and get your guys into space. For OU, you want to run the ball to settle in Arnold, and the pressure unit needs to be effective. And I just don't think it will be. I'm going to take Arizona to win this game. I think Oklahoma, this game is going to mean a lot for them. But they are without their starting quarterback. I think Arnold will be terrific. Maybe not so much in this game, though. And I think the running game, they don't really have that depth to, really occupy Walker. I think he'll probably just do fine, though, as a bell cow in this game. I just think Arizona's going to play better coverage. I think they're going to do a good job in space. And I think they're not going to have too much pressure from the Sooners' defense. So I'm going to give Arizona the win here. Don't think this is a game they're going on the table to lose at all. So I'm going to take the Wildcats and Jedfish to continue to improve this program and finish off with a phenomenal, unexpected season.
I love this matchup here, and I think this is a great opportunity for Arizona to win this game. I like them to win this game here and play well in this Alamo Bowl. The Alamo Bowls, as of late, have been pretty solid. Some nice matchups between teams in these two conferences, and I like this matchup a lot here for Arizona. This team's super motivated. Jed Fish and company, they had a lot of doubters. Ourselves included, we weren't super high on this team in the preseason. They proved us wrong. They've been fantastic. They're, putting together a great season. They get to 10 wins. That would be a fantastic mark for this team. They have a great opportunity here. I don't want to say Oklahoma has nothing to play for. They do have a lot of pride to play for, but I think Arizona just has more to play for. They're going to be up for this game. I expect Arizona fans to travel and excited for this bowl game. This team doesn't play in a lot of high-profile bowls. And I think the Alamo Bowl is a very respectable bowl when it comes down to the grand scheme of things. This is a fun matchup. I like the offense to really take over here and be in a good spot. I think they'll score a lot of points quick and make this game, make Oklahoma play catch-up and cause them to make a couple mistakes here and coast to a victory. Love the Wildcats in this one. I'm super excited for this game, though. A very unique matchup to watch in late in bowl season.
It's going to be it for today's episode. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.